Welcome. Welcome. I know you guys always like to joke about me being late, but honestly, everything within 5 minutes of these streams, I think that's on time. I think that's very punctual. Because it takes some time to finish the setup because I have to put up the camera, connect the microphone, and I also have to connect my Ethernet cable to the computer to make sure that I have enough bandwidth because German infrastructure is not the best. But we have an exciting Wednesday. We have a very good AMA in front of us, and I hope that all of you had a great Easter weekend, long weekend, or were able to take some time off. It's always very good to be able to just sit and just think. And I think that is really one of the most important things as an entrepreneur, that you spend more time to think about and strategize about the future to really make sure that you're on the right track. And to also be able to finally sit down and lay out a full quarter or even the next few quarters of very exciting progress that you want to make and define your objectives and then try to really lay out an actionable plan. So I think we were able to do that. So we have some very exciting stuff that we're working on. So I think it will be very exciting to see how all of this is going to move forward. Just so all of you know, because now it's summer, right? Summer is in front of us. The days are getting longer, and I really hope that we're going to see countries opening up soon. So that means that you guys probably want to spend your Friday evenings with your friends and all of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the days for the AMA and for the IOTA Talks. And we're going to do the AMAs on Mondays from now on. So next week, we're going to do the AMA on Monday. So and the IOTA Talks will be done on Thursday, every time on 6 p.m. CST. And so I think that should be a much better time in general. And we have some good stuff to cover in those discussions. So let's move over to the AMA. Let me just share my screen with you. Where is the button? Great. Let me just zoom in. Remember last time when I did my small little flex on my 4.5K karma? Now I have 4.9. How exciting, collecting internet points. So let's get started. First question, what are the biggest risks that could derail the following: Cordicide sharding adoption? Very good question. I think with Cordicide, the only real risk at this point is the implementation. Making sure that we do that in time, but also really making sure that there's no hidden bugs, that there's no hidden implementation errors that we made. And for example, right now the team is trying to find a bug related to Mana, because obviously they're putting everything together. I think on the research side, on the theoretical side, we are really well off with what we have. It's like FPC has really been peer reviewed. We have a lot of exciting researchers. Some of them are going to be announced soon, that are working together with us on this Cordicide solution, on this fully decentralized IOTA. So I think on the theoretical side, we're really well off to deliver what was promised, which is a fully decentralized IOTA. I think the biggest risk at this point is the implementation itself. And that's why we always say that our big objective is to deliver Cordicide, right? So if you think about Cordicide, we have to refer to Cordicide as an event where IOTA on the IOTA mainnet becomes fully decentralized with the Cordicide solution. Like, I think Cordicide is a bad name for the solution. We should call it something else, like IOTA 2.0. Right, so we're upgrading the network to IOTA 2.0 by doing Cordicide, by killing the coordinator. And our objective is to deliver that in Q4. A lot of that will depend on how well the testing will go with the incentivized testnet. That's why we always say that the incentivized testnet is really it's the most important phase for Cordicide, because that is where research combined with the implementation is really being tested in an open environment with incentives. And so we are really thinking about how we can set up this incentivized testnet, how we can provide new incentives for all of you to really participate in this network and to experience IOTA 2.0 before it even happens on the IOTA mainnet, right? So you're able to join that network and are able to experiment with the solution. So testing, right? That's going to be the most important thing to make sure that our Cordicide implementation is well off and that there's no hidden bugs. But obviously, you can rest assured that our team is always thinking about how we can do the upgrade in the safest way from IOTA, from the current IOTA to the IOTA 2.0 version, so that everything has been fully tested. And obviously, there's going to be multiple audits. There's going to be more papers published, and also more peer review of the implementation and all of that. So for one, Cordicide, the biggest risk is the implementation itself, to make sure that that is production ready, that there's no hidden bugs or anything there. When it comes to sharding, I think sharding is also such a complicated topic, where you have to take not just this mathematical component into account, but also sort of the economical one very, very closely. When it comes to deploying these shards, how they're being secured, how they're being scaled, and all of that, we have a very, very concrete solution with data sharding, which should really push us up quite a magnitude of orders in terms of the TPS, right, that we can achieve, the throughput. But the ultimate objective is to shard value transactions, the value tangle. And I think there the team is still exploring multiple potential pathways. So I think that we're on track there. I would say with sharding, same as with Cordicide, you just need to spend time on it. You just need to think about it. We have a very amazing team in the IOTA Foundation that has delivered the Cordicide solution, and is now obviously looking at sharding. I don't know if there's a single biggest risk at the moment, because it's just taking time that we need to make sure that there's a viable pathway to fully shard the value tangle and make sure that this is the solution that we're building for. I think when it comes to sharding, if I were to summarize what I think the biggest risk would be, is us building a solution that is going to kill the adoption of IOTA, in a similar way how Ethereum said the biggest risk of Ethereum is Ethereum 2.0, where because of this upgrade, maybe projects will run to other platforms, or they deliver it too late, which means that, again, projects will run to other platforms and the adoption will be killed. The same could happen with sharding, where we deliver an inferior solution, which obviously will not be the case, but where we could deliver an inferior solution, or a solution that is not demanded by the market, something like that. I think those are risks that we are obviously taking into account, and that is why always the biggest objective of the foundation was to do adoption, working with big companies, and working on the research side in conjunction, right? So that we could also get feedback from the corporate partners on what they want and what they don't want. That is why we did Chrysalis, because Chrysalis is also the culmination of a lot of feedback that we got from the market on how IOTA should function and what we should remove. And I think the same we will do with sharding, so that we also get feedback from corporate partners. We've already done that with Mana, by the way. Just so you guys know, when we started out with Mana, we also went on this path because it's a complete new solution. And we didn't know if companies would want to participate in Mana marketplaces, if companies would want to hold IOTA tokens. So we went out in the market, we did questionnaires, we did feedback rounds with partners, with potential infrastructure partners, exchanges, custodians, and everybody was super excited about Mana, I would say. So that's also how we determined that Mana is a very viable solution for us. And we're going to do the same with sharding then, where we get the feedback from the ecosystem, specifically partners, but also really the community, to figure out if it's a viable path. One thing I really like about our approach as a project is that we do not develop things in silo, right? We develop it openly. We're very transparent. We always communicate here on a weekly basis. So it also helps to keep us in these checks and balances, so that we know that we're on the right path, with the community and the ecosystem really holding us accountable. So I think that's a really healthy way of developing such a crucial piece of infrastructure. In terms of the adoption, that's like I would say, and we've been saying that since the inception, that the biggest potential risk there is really related to regulations, where a country could say, hey, nobody's allowed to transact with cryptocurrencies anymore, and IOTA, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of that is banned. It is kind of unlikely that that's going to happen, but that's always sort of a risk that we have to take into account, that regulations could hinder adoption and hinder big companies from adopting our technologies. But ultimately, it is about decentralized protocols, and also decentralized permissionless ecosystems. So I doubt that this outlawing would last. But I would say that is really the biggest risk. And because our focus is on IoT and so this machine economy and big companies adopting the protocol to facilitate these payments, it's clear regulations are very important to accelerate our adoption. That's why we are very excited about what's happening here in Europe, where we have this new MiCA proposal. I think it's going to be implemented over the next 2 or 3 years, ratified. And there you have very clear regulations on what stablecoins are, which stablecoins are allowed, what cryptocurrencies are, how to accept them. And also, it's really an exciting pathway to answer questions around taxes, around the legal issues, and then the regulatory issues, everything around crypto adoption, right? How I, as a big company, can enable my business model with cryptocurrencies. And that's exactly what we want as a project to accelerate our adoption. So I think in Europe, it's going in a very exciting direction with this new regulation. I think other countries are also going to provide much clearer regulation. So the first risk with adoption is regulation. That's always a big one. And I think the second one is probably related. I'm trying to think here. Our objective is to go from a speculative asset towards a real technology, right? Where the IOTA token is being utilized to secure the IOTA network and being used to facilitate the value transfers in our network. And we really envision this to be the backbone of the machine economy. So one big risk of adoption is always competitors, centralized competitors, that really just try to flood the market with their solution. That ultimately might work in the short term, where they're able to convince big companies to work with them simply because they're a more trusted brand. But because we are an open source protocol, because we are in this for the long term, I think we really will prevail in the long term and get IOTA adopted as this standard to transfer value between machines. So I think with the adoption side, it's just about having the patience and the perseverance to convince large players to work with us. That's also why we are very excited this year to focus more on consumer applications, right? Sort of like this tangible adoption. And that's really going to be exciting, because that will really also help to accelerate the adoption on the business side. So I think adoption, we're really moving in the right direction in that regard. I hope I answered your risks correctly. Maybe, I mean, another thing that's kind of obvious to everybody here: the higher the price, the higher the attention. That's kind of an obvious factor to consider here. But what has been obvious since 2017 to 2020, that the crash or sort of this bear market really helped us to focus on on the fundamentals and getting those fundamentals right. And we were focused on building and just really making sure that we get things right with our protocol, with our technology. So I don't think that another bear market will do us any bad, but we're really well positioned in that regard. Yeah. What are the latest news in mobility and specifically with Mobi? Have any working groups turned up with positive results using an IOTA solution? We are actively engaged in many different working groups. Like there's Gaia X, which is like this European cloud initiative. We are actively working on E-Class, which is like a standards body for household appliances, but also industrial machines. And we are also working in NATBA, which is like this regulatory body. We also work in other working groups. The goal of these working groups, first and foremost, is sort of educational, where you present your solution, you get in touch with partners. And we've onboarded many partners through these working groups. I think Mobi also has a concrete solution for vehicle identity. And we also have built an industry marketplace together with E-Class, which is very exciting. I think if you go to industrymarketplace.net or so, or you can go to industry marketplace, just Google industry marketplace IOTA, you will find the solution. Maybe I can actually Google it. But the goal right now for us is really to further build on these working groups now that we have Chrysalis coming out. And one thing that we are going to do after Chrysalis is really do a more broader push in the market, trying to get adoption for IOTA, for like get more companies to build with us. And these working groups are kind of perfect for that. So I would say that they're very productive. It's always a question about like capacity, because we are only 140 people, and I think only 20 or 30 people are in this sort of adoption team, like business adoption. So it's all about having a focus on those working groups that are the most valuable. So right now we have a big focus on Gaia X here in Europe, as it's quite valuable to participate in that cloud initiative because all the big companies are represented there. And obviously one of our biggest working groups is still Tangle EE Enterprise Edition, where we work together with those corporate partners. And I think after Chrysalis, we're also going to scale that up more. Yeah. And you also have the Linux Foundation, where we have Project Alvarium, where we are doing it together with Dell Intel. So I think that will also launch as its own working group. So all of that is moving forward. One thing to keep in mind is with these working groups, oftentimes it's just there to engage in conversations with the right partners and to represent IOTA and present our solutions. But many solutions are still going to be worked on and coming out of them. I really like how the IOTA Foundation has been working for the last year. It's very professional. Is there any help or support from the German government or the European Union? First of all, thank you for saying we're professionals, or we are professional. That's great to hear. I think a lot of that, it really has to do that we have the right people in the right positions. So it's very exciting to see what our leadership team and also our team leads have done in terms of really bringing a solid structure into the foundation. So I'm very proud of what the IOTA team has achieved in that regard. In terms of help, I'm going to be very honest and very blunt here, and that is, I don't think we're getting enough support. And that's usually the case with new technologies, I guess, because many of these governments, they have an attitude of only supporting those that do the best lobby effort. That's why, for example, in the German government, everybody knows about Libra, but they don't even know about IOTA in some cases. And that just really has to do with lobbying effort. And we as a foundation, we don't do enough. We don't do any of that yet. So we have to put more focus on that. So I'm a little bit disappointed by the German government in that regard. Hopefully that will change in the near future. we are still focused on building. We are very apolitical. We do not engage with any specific political party. But I just want to point that out. We accept ultimately just the adoption of IOTA as a base technology, as a base infrastructure layer. Like that's our ultimate objective, because we think that through the adoption of IOTA as digital infrastructure, we can help build also new tools and solutions for these governments, right? And when it comes to the European Union, we have, I would say, 5 or 6 grants that we've received, and the amount probably to 2 or 3 million euros that we received in grants just from the European Union. So that's very exciting, and that's great, because usually when you apply to one of these grants, the success chance is like 8% or less. And we really did a great job, or like Michele and Florian from the team have really done an excellent job in getting these grants out and getting them approved and accepted us in this sort of consortium structure. So that's the only support that we receive right now from the European Union. I hope it scales up more as we also move forward with Chrysalis, but nonetheless, we do not want to tie our success to any third party. You know, the biggest life lesson that I got when I was 18 and when I had my first failed startup in Switzerland was like, never depend on others to solve your problems. I would say that's really lesson number 1 when it comes to building up a startup, because you should not rely on others to solve your problems. And back in those days, I was relying on others to set up sort of crypto valley in Zug. And ultimately, my crypto exchange failed because I was relying on this fact that there would be a crypto valley, there would be this regulated setup environment where we could work with banks and all of that. That didn't turn out to be true. And I think the same is really true for us as the IOTA Foundation. We should never rely on others to solve our problems and to solve the adoption issues around IOTA. Rather, we should really try and make sure that it happens by building the future, right? That's the only sure way of success. And I think we're doing a good job in that. And we are working with the US government in some aspects. We're trying to do more in Asia. We work in Africa. So we are really scaling up our efforts, and I think it's all going in the right direction. And the awareness of IOTA will only increase over the next few weeks as we move forward with Chrysalis, as we move forward with smart contracts, digital assets, more adoption cases, and also more awareness because of the general bull market. So I think it will all come together. Any news or developments on the tree partnership with IOTA, Land Rover, and the city of Trondheim, Norway? Why do you call it the tree partnership, by the way? It's kind of an interesting word. Land Rover, we're still moving forward with them. As you guys can probably guess, because of the pandemic, every single auto manufacturer, except for Tesla, funnily enough, had some serious issues. So some of the projects that we worked on also with other automotives that haven't been announced yet have been put on hold. And with Land Rover, we're still in close discussions with them. And the intention is still to roll this out as a product. And what we showed back in, I think it was 2019, right? Was how the electric vehicle, the Jaguar Land Rover, could actually charge, like pay for the charging from the charging station, and also verify that it's green electricity. So through like a green certificate that is stored on the Tangle. And that's a super exciting use case, and we're still moving forward with that. I think the use cases of IOTA to enable this sort of green revolution is only going to scale up. We have the digital DMRV, where we're productizing that, right? So how to collect data and how to share that data in a verifiable way. We're also talking about credit markets in terms of the carbon emissions, offsetting programs, and obviously green certificates. And then the very exciting part is really the the green or like the energy markets themselves. So we're still moving forward with City Exchange as like a separate project altogether. But overall, I would say it's all moving forward, and we're still in close contact with all those partners, and they're very excited about what we're doing with Chrysalis, and specifically what we're doing with digital assets and smart contracts. So the good part about what we have done with IOTA is we've built up a reputation in the market as well, and those companies that we work with really like working with us because they also see us as really thought leaders and people that focus on getting shit done instead of just talking and doing PowerPoint presentations. So I think as we move forward with the production readiness of IOTA, we are going to get more exciting adoption use cases. Yeah, but usually when it comes to like just one, I just want to make one point clear. When it comes to corporate adoption, things always take longer than expected. So that's just something that you guys have to keep in mind when it comes to these things. How does a person exercise his right to be forgotten on the Tangle? Let's take U-Perch. U-Birch, it kind of sounded like that movie Perch. I think it's called The Perch, right? Which is kind of like this apocalyptical movie. Let's take U-Birch vaccine pass as an example. They store my full name and passport ID on the Tangle. If I now want U-Birch to delete my data, how will that work? First of all, I want to make one point clear. You should not store that data on the Tangle. That's not what the Tangle is for. You should not store sensitive personal data on the Tangle. The only reason why you would want to utilize IOTA for a personal identity project, like what we're doing, or like what U-Birch is doing with their vaccine passport, or like I think they utilize IOTA for their testing centers, is when you want to have a verifiable credential. That means that you have a sort of statement or you have a certain data set that you want to verify through the Tangle. So you do not store the data on the Tangle, but you just store the hash of the data. And for you guys that don't know what a hash is, it's basically a fingerprint of the data. So you just store the hashed fingerprint on the Tangle, right? It's not really possible to decipher it. You do not know what data set it's for, which use case it's for. But the exciting part is that everybody that has the hash and that everybody that has the data set can actually verify, right? That's why it's called verifiable credentials. I would say that this is a very tricky question, and the honest truth is that nobody has an answer to that, because when it comes to GDPR and blockchains, distributed ledgers, there's no clear answer yet. Is a hash your personal data or not? Some say yes, some say no. Obviously, you cannot delete data once it's entered into the Tangle or into any type of blockchain. That's the whole point of them. So the only way that you could really do that is that you, for example, encrypt the data, and through some method you ensure that the private key of the encryption is removed, is deleted through some way. But we as the IOTA Foundation, we really focus on GDPR compliance, and our identity solution is actually GDPR compliant as well. And once we have the beta release of our identity out, we're gonna get Jelle on the show so that he can also talk about these specific problems with us. But yeah, it's a very good question. The truth is nobody has a clear answer when it comes to GDPR compliance and distributed ledgers. But we are focused on building GDPR compliant software in the best possible way. Exactly, like he's answering the question here. IOTA solves this by not actually storing the data on the Tangle, but just a hash that gives access to the data in an off-Tangle database. Exactly. Oh, this is an important part. So U-Birch saves my data in their database with a hash from the Tangle. If it's within a centralized database, why would they need the Tangle? Very, very, very good question. Very important one. The main reason why you want to have a distributed ledger here is you can store the data in a centralized database, but if I just sent you the data from my database directly to you, how can you verify that it's not being altered with, that the data is correct, that the data is coming from me, right? How do you verify the authenticity? How do you verify the mutability of the data and also the correctness of the data? That's why you use the Tangle, because with IOTA, we can store the hash of the data set on the Tangle in a very efficient manner. And then when I share with you this data set, you can recreate the hash and you can verify what's on the ledger. And because we have this sort of chain of custody concept, you can really verify at each point in time, really meaning at each sort of time period, when the data was created, when it was altered, and how it was altered, by whom. Because every data set is being signed. So you can really verify these changes. And that's why you want to use the Tangle for these use cases, so that you ensure the verifiability of this data. And many of our use cases are built on that. Being a developer and building decentralized things over the past 10 years, I'm constantly looking for places where I can push the boundaries and come up with solutions to novel problems. Welcome to the team, or welcome to the ecosystem, I would say. I still have a Raspberry Pi sitting in my office with IOTA code on it from 2017 to 2018, where I was experimenting with the concept of using it to pay for road tolls and speeding up traffic light waiting times. That sounds exciting, by the way. I've since been out of the loop slightly, have been focusing on Ethereum, but looking at migrating some of my energy back to IOTA. What are your thoughts on the direction you would like to see developers like me move? What are the big ticket items and some of the more obscure things? Obviously, feelers, minimized smart contracts are going to open up a lot of doors, but what else? Where should I point my compass? Thank you for asking that question. Very, very exciting question. And I think I mentioned this on the previous talk, is like everybody that is a developer or is a builder or has an idea in the IOTA ecosystem, we should get started building now, because now is really this time where we can start getting these concepts right, because IOTA is moving into a direction where everything will be made possible that other technologies also have, specifically Ethereum, right? We're moving towards a future where we have a production-ready base layer, production-ready protocol, which nobody else has. We have digital assets, so you can tokenize real estate, you can tokenize physical assets, you can tokenize virtual assets, do NFTs on top of IOTA. And then very exciting, we have smart contracts that are coming together that are EVM compatible. And all of this is really like this sort of holistic picture that is coming together, where you can build exciting use cases focused on the machine economy, but also focused on more decentralized concepts with DeFi and all of that. So with IOTA, everything is coming together. When it comes to putting your focus, I think one thing that makes IOTA so exciting is that all of these other ecosystems, they're super crowded already, and they're kind of oversaturated in some aspects. Like if you look at Ethereum, it's incredibly hard to launch a new product there. For one, because of the incredibly high fees, but also because it's every idea has sort of been tested and been built to some aspect, right? So you need to really put a lot of effort into thinking about new ideas and new concepts. And what we've seen, for example, with the FAE protocol, which launched recently, that can go horribly wrong if you get the concept wrong. And now when it comes to IOTA, we have a complete new playing ground. It's a green field. And as such, it's very exciting to join the IOTA ecosystem right now and just start building, because there's so many opportunities. We have one of the largest ecosystems communities out there with just 45,000 people on Discord. It's one of the most intelligent communities on average in the whole crypto space. So there's a huge opportunity for you as a developer to start building something that is going to be adopted by tens of thousands of people just from the IOTA community, right? That's incredibly exciting. And I really invite all of you to start focusing on building now. And there's going to be opportunities for you to raise capital. Right now, the job of me, Dan, Mark, and others is really to, first of all, line up our ecosystem development fund so that we can support you in building up open source tools, libraries, also applications. So through our ecosystem development fund. And the second thing that we're focused on right now is to bring external capital into our ecosystem to invest into these projects. Because what makes Ethereum and also Polkadot so great right now is these launch pads, where it's easy for you to raise capital. And so we are really focused on bringing these opportunities or these enablers to the IOTA ecosystem so that all of you with great ideas can get easy capital, can get easy access to the community, and can just be focused on building. So the time is right, and we should really be focused on building. What you should build, I think, is up to you. I think it really depends on your skill set. We are focused on providing this sort of freedom to enable you guys to build your use cases. Whether it's focused on IoT, where you obviously need to have the hardware experience, or whether it's focused on doing more just web only or smart contracts only use cases, is all moving in the right direction for you to enable these use cases. So yeah, I think Fila smart contracts is really going to be a door opener. And once we also publish this new digital assets concept, it will be more clear how digital assets will be able to interact directly with smart contracts. So it's all moving in the right direction. So let's start building now. And if you have ideas or if you want input on something, just join our Discord. We are always present there, and just feel free to ask us or the community directly. I think one thing that I would really love to see more is how we can also shape up ideas together, right? Evolve them from rough ideas towards concrete concepts. And we have a very active community, so you can always get direct feedback from them. We already see it here right now, where people ask all these questions. Point me in the direction. I think the best direction right now is our docs. If catching up how Chrysalis works, how it's changing, catching up on our smart contracts concept. Ultimately, it will be EVM compatible. That means that if you build a smart contract in Solidity, it will work on IOTA. And the third part is really how our digital assets are going to work. Those three really make this trifecta. I think I said trifecta, right? I think that's the word. But offer an exciting environment for all of you to build decentralized applications with. And if you want to get funding from our ecosystem development fund, reach out to Mark or reach out to us on Discord, and we're happy to discuss it with you. What is the expected data flow of the IOTA marketplace? I'm a second-rate developer. What is a second-rate developer? Be more self-conscious, Elam King. You're a first-rate developer. Believe in yourself. But have history with a sensor to user. But have history with a sensor to use user technology. Okay. I don't understand the use case for the marketplace. I get the public sensors giving data on the public Tangle is amazing. I get that selling a unit of data on the Tangle is great. But neither of those require anything beyond existing authentication and open API calls. Example. I have a temperature sensor. I want to sell that the weathersite.com and NOAA.gov. Does my sensor upload to each subscriber, meaning it needs to keep a list and push to all subscribers? I assume not. Instead, there's a manager, I guess. If there's a manager, why would it reference a Tangle instead of a lighter weight database backend? Okay. Interesting question. The way that I would summarize it, the main objective of an IOTA marketplace is to make it possible to monetize data that is verifiable, right? You want to make sure that data has come from a certain sensor, that the data has been verified through some mechanism. Either it's a verified identity of an IoT device, where you have an identity that is embedded during the process of the manufacturing process. The identity is stamped on, and you know that this sensor was produced at the NetAtmo factory XYZ. So the device has been verified. And you also want to make this data shareable. One of the biggest difficulties of current IoT platforms is that all of them are data silos. So if you have data in one IoT platform, you cannot get it to another IoT platform. You cannot share it easily. And ultimately, it's a question around, do you own the data? The thinking behind IOTA is that you are in possession of your valuable assets. One, the most valuable one is the IOTA token, digital assets, but obviously also data, right? That is the value that you possess, that's sitting on the IOTA Tangle that you possess with your private keys, and that we want to make possible for you to transfer around freely, including monetizing it on a data marketplace. So for us, a data marketplace is sort of a mid to long-term objective of what we want to set up, because data marketplaces are key for this autonomous machine economy. We want to make it possible for IoT devices to collect data and to automatically sell it, monetize it. That's really key to this vision of the machine economy. If you think about the Jaguar Land Rover, the part of the idea behind it is that as the car is driving around, it's collecting valuable data that can then be monetized in many different ways, right? Selling it to the municipality, selling it to the OEM, or selling it to a mapping platform. All of that should be made possible. And we use a technology called streams. So streams is, you can think about publishing it once. You publish the data once, and it can be shared with millions of different providers that want to that are subscribed to it. And that's one of the exciting parts about IOTA, because you publish it once and it can be verified by millions of devices. You cannot achieve that with any other technology, right? This is really why this verifiability of data is so exciting, because if you're able to verify the authenticity of data, and in the next phase you're able to verify the correctness of the data, you're really able to monetize this data. Because today we really have a problem around trusting data. And that's why the IOTA marketplace is so exciting. That's why we also focused on building out oracles with Project Alvarium that are verifying the authenticity of the data. And in a later stage, you can also monetize them. And very exciting use case is we want to build a decentralized economy and a decentralized future. That also means that smart contracts need to be able to receive data and are actually able to acquire data from these decentralized marketplaces. So because maybe they have a certain use case that needs to enable it, that is basically running on data, and our objective is to enable this decentralized future, and this data marketplace is key to the machine economy. So for us, it's a long-term game, and we're really focused on building these as products. Yeah. Let me drink some more. By the way, I always kind of wonder what's happening in the chat when I'm not looking. That's kind of funny. I have to check that afterwards. I hope you guys do nothing bad in the chat. This is a family-friendly show. Hi Dom, Chrysalis, IOTA 2.0, Cordicide, IOTA 3.0, sharding. Oh wait, I was reading that wrong. Chrysalis, comma, IOTA 2.0, Cordicide, comma, IOTA 3.0, sharding, comma. Do you have any vision of IOTA 4.0? I don't know. Are we going to inject it into your brain or something? It's an interesting question what IOTA 4.0 is. Like with sharding, I guess IOTA 4.0 is really this ubiquitous platform that is accessible interplanetary. It's sort of like this interplanetary vision where IOTA is going to be utilized on Mars, and you can transact from Mars to Earth and buy data. I would say that's sort of the long-term goal. So we will reach out to SpaceX about that. Hey Dom, visibility is important for IOTA and the foundation. Would you consider reaching out proactively to influencers, multiplicators to enhance IOTA's visibility? For example, YouTubers, podcasters, etc. Galileo Russell from the Hyperchange YouTube channel is probably interested if you reach out. We'll do more of that. We'll definitely do more of that. Right now, we're very focused on getting our narratives right and getting our approach right. But I think now with Chrysalis right in front of us, we should definitely do more of that. And you can expect more outreach happening from our side. Yeah. Hello, Dom. A project has started in Germany to digitize ID cards. So the topic is digital identities. It is interesting that a project called ID Union is funded with 50 million euros from the German government. Instead of a DLT, they use something else, TOIP. What is it? But is that like trust over IP? It's kind of weird. They have partners like Bosch, Siemens, etc. How do we relate to this project, and are there any IOTA-based projects in the pipeline? Identity is super important for us. It's one of our strategic initiatives and efforts. We are hiring a lot more people. So if you are really interested in identity, please go to jobs.iota.org. I think we have like 4 job openings just related to identity right now on the engineering side, but also we're looking for more on the adoption side. One thing to keep in mind is digital identities is a very broad topic. It's related to machines, right? Machine identities. It's related to corporate identities. Let's think about you as employee XYZ at a company. And it's also related to government-issued identities. And then there's another spectrum with decentralized identities related to smart contracts and stuff like that. I think what we should focus on as a project is machine identities and those decentralized identities, so that if you are interacting with a decentralized application, you can verify yourself or you can even show that you have been KYC verified at an exchange. And those are the ones that we're focusing on right now. But overall, we are really going to do a lot more when it comes to the adoption with digital identities. Like it's a very important effort for us to move forward with that. I think when it comes to digital identities, the only thing that I would accept as a citizen is something that's fully open source, where I know that there's not a single party that is really benefiting from it, but it's really something that enables me to own my data. And I've never heard of this project. I'll look it up afterwards. So I think we as a non-profit foundation, we can really position ourselves well here. But also we have to build more credibility on the market. And when it comes to building stuff for the government, what they are oftentimes want from you are your certifications. Like, are you ISO certificated? For example, wait, let me show you guys. I'm trying to find the right link. So basically, when it comes to building software for governments that's being utilized by the government, oftentimes you need to have like an ISO certification. And sometimes it's nonsense, but sometimes it also makes a ton of sense, right? So if we, for example, wanted to work with a certain German government entity and they want to utilize our tech, they couldn't utilize it because it's not ISO compliant. That's why, for example, Hyperledger is being adopted right now because they have this ISO certification, because IBM obviously has a lot of experience with that certification. And so we, as a foundation, we still have to build up that internal knowledge. And after Chrysalis, we're definitely going to move forward with this ISO compliance to make sure that we have been properly vetted and peer reviewed, and that government entities can utilize our software more easily. So yeah, it's moving in the right direction. When it comes to identity, we're preparing the beta release right now, which is very, very exciting. And after that, we will really focus on getting this stuff adopted and build up more use cases. For me, the perfect example will be if I have my Firefly app, I have my identity in there, And if there's like a decentralized exchange, or there's something, a dApp that I want to interact with, I can easily verify myself with the Firefly app. That's sort of like the tangible adoption that we are focusing on, because there's millions of users in the crypto space that really need the solution. So we are going to work on that. I have 8 more minutes because I have to jump off afterwards on a call. Hey, Dom, do you have any updates on Project Alvarium? Any other business interests derived from that webinars? Stay sexy, stay cool. All right. Project Alvarium, as I mentioned before, when it comes to corporate adoption, this stuff takes time. It's going to move forward. And we had some very exciting discussions with Dell, with Intel, on how to proceed with it. Obviously, I can't mention anything right now. I can't pre-announce stuff. But it's moving forward, and when the things are ready, we're gonna tell you guys about it. Any updates regarding digital twins and how that is shaping up with work done on digital identities? Yeah, totally. One thing that we are really thinking about right now is how should we actually frame the whole NFT narrative with digital twins? Because ultimately, a digital twin could be represented as an NFT, and then you can also start to monetize these assets more easily. So the RFC that we are doing for digital assets also has this sort of digital twin component in mind. But some of our adoption use cases are still very much focused on digital twins. Right. So, for example, we're starting to do more in real estate with buildings, for example. But that really also has to do with tokenization. But yeah, I think with digital identities, it will take on a new life on its own. And we do a lot with E-Class, who is a very exciting partner and very exciting alliance. So I think once we are ready with Chrysalis, and once we're ready with digital identities, we can really push out these digital twins use cases a lot more. Maybe, yeah, I think we have time. I'm sure that IOTA should be in the top 10. I cannot name any obvious reasons why ADA and DOT are in the top 10, but IOTA is not. Dom, what do you think about this? What could be the reason? I am very angry as well. And truth be told, right? IOTA is going to be a top 5 project. That's what we're working for. Nothing else is acceptable for us. And we are working every day and night. We're really pushing out new projects. We're really making sure that IOTA is not just any other crypto asset, but is really a new technology that is taking on decentralization. It is taking on really building an exciting future for all of us. And then it will not just be a top 5 project, but we really have great ambitions for the project. And I still firmly believe that what we're doing here is either it's going to be $1 trillion project and ecosystem, or it's going to be nothing, because everything doesn't make any sense in this space. We have some very exciting stuff happening in Q2, and I think everything is really shaping up. And truth be told, we had to get our act together and focus on what is most important and get rid of all of the stuff that is not important. And it's starting to pay off. And you see that as well in the acceptance of IOTA in the market. And right now, the only thing that we can do is to focus on building and not worry about the price, because all of that will follow us as we build and as we progress with our solutions and with the adoption of IOTA. So I'm very, very confident in our direction and in our strategy, and I think the price will only follow after that. And I think ADA and DOT, they've done a great job at building up a great ecosystem and great narratives around their technologies. So good on them, I would say. And we can only try and do better. And that's really our focus here. And when do you expect us to be able to chat with friends in the Firefly wallet? That's a good question. I think first of all, we need to develop the mobile wallet. There's no concrete timelines on that yet, but that will obviously be after Chrysalis. So a few months after Chrysalis, you will have a mobile wallet. And then after that, we can really be focused on building out this sort of ecosystem of features in the Firefly wallet. I'm personally super excited about digital assets in my Firefly wallet. So I can create new coins myself and send them to my friends. And chatting functionality is also really great. So I guess what we're looking at is integrating the Matrix protocol, I think. But I don't have a concrete timeline right now, but it will be after the mobile wallet has been released. So I think Q3, Q4, I would say. Do you think people will be able to vote on elections from their home using IOTA or another crypto technology? That's a very interesting question. I've done a lot of research on voting on blockchain and some kind of presentations on that stuff. I think it's a very exciting pathway. I think what's more exciting is digital identities and zero knowledge proofs, because those are really a necessity to hold fair elections. And I think we're moving forward with digital identities. If IOTA is being utilized to register votes, just in the form of digital identities, right? You have a digital identity, you're able to verify that one person has cast a vote. That's already amazing. Like then we already really solved half of the problem when it comes to elections and the fairness of elections. So that is what we are focused on as a protocol, really making sure that we have digital identities that are unique, that are Sybil resistant, that cannot be attacked, that cannot be forged, where one person equals one identity, verified identity. And with that, we can really solve this voting problem. And then after that, you can do it with zero knowledge proofs. I don't think you should do it on DLTs themselves, but maybe that will change. Let me do one more question, maybe this one, because the other one is kind of long to read. Hi Dom, is IOTA still collaborating with Volkswagen? We're still in contact with them. We're also in contact with some of their subsidiaries, and the original project on IOTA was deprioritized to focus on other stuff, non-blockchain related, I think. And we were still continuing with other automotives as well. I think after Chrysalis and also with our incentivized testnet, many of these companies will also come back and focus on building together with us. What's different of IOTA in 2021 and IOTA in 2017 is also that we have a much more, I think, product-focused adoption approach, meaning that we have specific products that corporates can adopt, right? We have streams for secure data streams. We have identity for machines and for humans, but also for your workforce. We have smart contracts. We have IOTA access for access control for IoT devices. And then we are really also working on some other stuff, digital assets and so on and so forth. So I think with that, it will also be easier for those big companies to utilize IOTA in production more quickly, and to have a very concrete focus on which problem we are solving with them. Because IOTA is a platform, sometimes those companies really need more time to figure out what works and what doesn't for them. So with these specific products, it will be a lot easier to be adopted. So I hope that Volkswagen will come back as well, and that we can create an exciting future together with them, because they are on the right path, I would say, when it comes to electric vehicles and all of that. Cool. So I think that was most of the questions, I would say. I always try to keep it to an hour, because I think there's a lot more to discuss. And 60 minutes is sort of the perfect format. Make sure to join us on Friday, where we're going to have another IOTA talk. Other than that, next week, we're going to do these AMAs on Monday and do the IOTA talk on Thursday. Just keep that in mind. And if you have any questions, if you want to start getting started with building on IOTA, join our community, join discord.iota.org. And we're happy to support you in your endeavor as we are building the machine economy. Without further ado, I hope that all of you were able to get some insights out of this show. And if you have any questions, always feel free to ask on Reddit. Feel free to reach out to us on Discord. We are very accessible. We are all just community members, just like you. And I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.